our support in segment number 1 is going to the Dean of the Medical College of Georgia at Augusta University. He's no stranger to the Means Report and certainly no stranger to this community. He is Dr. Peter Buckley. Dr. Buckley, thank you for coming back. We appreciate your time.
Always a privilege, Brad.
Well,
thank
it's
you very much.
Our pleasure. It's been a whirlwind for you since we last met. You're just coming down or about to come down as interim CEO of AU Health, right?
Correct.
And maintaining your duties as the Dean of the Medical College of Georgia. And are you excited to be kind of dialing it back a little bit and just being the Dean?
Well, it's been a great privilege and opportunity to be at the helm of the hospital, but we have a fantastic colleague joining us who was a CEO of the hospital at University of Cincinnati, and so it's great to pass the baton to somebody that's really accomplished and going to be a great partner, as well as a great colleague for this community.
Well, we welcome him for sure. We appreciate your leadership, no question. You did a great job and continue to do so, and that's reflected in the recent accreditation of the medical college, an accreditation that kind of is going to keep you going on the good path for the next 8 years. Your thoughts on that accreditation and what it says to your team there, what it says about your team there?
So it's a very big deal. There are a lot of medical schools over the years that have fallen on that hurdle because, as you might imagine, the public want a strict accreditation of doctors. This is really a check and see how the school is in terms of its ability to produce good doctors, and so it's highly regulated. And we got a clean bill of health. We got a full 8 years reaccreditation, which was really spectacular. And it really endorses what we're doing. And in fact, our reviewers, who are all very senior, were really impressed that we were able to pull it off in a regional campus strategy, because the people of Augusta know that we're right down the street in Augusta, but actually 40% of our medical student training is across the state. And so really now the state of Georgia is our campus. And so this was a validation that the process that we began many years ago with the first campus in Albany 10 years ago, and then successive campuses in Savannah and Rome, in Brunswick and in Athens, that's a great way to train medical students. And of course it's led our admissions to medical school to go through the roof. We're now the 9th largest medical school in America by the number of students. 230, 40% of them trained outside of Augusta.
It's amazing. 230 medical students starting just a few short days ago on campus right here in the CSRA and at the campuses across the great state of Georgia, as you mentioned, all the way to Rome and back. What about the students after they graduate? What is our retention rate for getting these graduates to practice medicine in Georgia? Are we still at 50% plus?
So a number of years ago, we were focusing on the students, and a number of years ago, we were stuck at about 11 or 12% of our students staying here for residency. That's not terribly impressive, but we bumped it up about a year and a half ago to 20% of our students staying here in Augusta for the next stage of their training, with about 30% of them staying throughout Georgia and about 40–45% entering primary care. And then last year, we've been able to repeat that, and we had 18% of our students stay either at MCG or at our educational affiliations. That's really important, Brad, because it's great to train medical students to become doctors, but if they do the next stage of their training as a resident doctor, as they specialize, if they do that elsewhere, chances are they may stay elsewhere. And so if they go to North Carolina or they go to New York, chances are they're going to stay in New York. But there's about a 70% chance that if a medical student trains in the state, then does their next stage residency training in the state, there's a 70% chance they're going to stay. And that's our commitment to improve the physician workforce of Georgia.
What kind of doctors does Georgia need the most right now? What specialty, if one jumps out at you?
So there's a broad deficit of doctors, and it's projected to increase. And of course, Georgia, because people are migrating to Georgia from up north, actually the deficit is larger and increasing. It's typically primary care, which means internists, family doctors, also general surgeons and orthopedic surgeons. And of course, as you know, always a shortage of psychiatrists, mental health, and particularly child psychiatrists. So it's no one specialty, but it's a broad range of specialties, which is why we have 46 residency programs, so that we're covering the water of all the options.
Is there a specialty that more students want to pursue than other specialties, the kind of doctor that people dream of being?
The good news is that everybody seems to find their own passion.
Yeah.
So I ended up being a psychiatrist. God forbid that I'd have been a cardiologist. I'd have been the worst.
You would have been great at it.
So everybody finds their specialty. And when you look at it over years, it always kind of lines up there or thereabouts. So you have about 6% of doctors that become anesthesiologists, and about 4% that become psychiatrists, about 5% surgeons, and about 15-20% internists. So it works. And part of the reason it works is because in environments and the hospitals that we have here that help us with our training, medical students, they tag along with other established doctors, and they get the experience that works for them, and then they decide, that's for me.
What about Augusta University and the Medical College of Georgia's relationship with our friends in Atlanta, the lawmakers, and the relationship and how that relationship might keep the medical college in Augusta? You know, a few short years ago, there was the concern that we were going to lose MCG to Athens. That concern has sort of subsided. Are we good to go for the long haul here in Augusta when it comes to MCG and AU?
So the resources that have gone into 188 years of a medical school in Augusta, you can't replace that overnight.
You can't.
And the $76 million Harrison building, and top that with a $66 million transformative gift. So I'm here to tell you that the Medical College of Georgia is in Augusta for at least the next 10,000 years.
Okay,
can't
10,000.
guarantee after that.
Well, I was going to say, you know, from the outside looking in, it does look good. You do see all of these things coming out of the ground and endowments appearing, and so that's reassuring to know.
It's very solid. The other aspect of it, though, is that we intend to build these relationships. You mentioned Athens. We have a fabulous relationship with UGA, and we train 160 medical students there in that partnership. And we are committed to that partnership, being good partners with UGA. And those students there, they feel just like the students at Augusta. They are bonded to Augusta University and the Medical College of Georgia.
What's the buzz about MCG nationwide, worldwide? I'll be honest with you, and maybe it's just a credit to the communications department at your institution, but we do seem to make headlines almost weekly with some sort of groundbreaking research that's coming out of your labs. Are we known worldwide as a great research institution and one that's on the cutting edge?
We continue to advance our research. I'll tell you, last week I was very delighted. We appeared in U.S. News and World, actually for our medical students, as the 6th most diverse with respect to African Americans amongst our medical students. I'm very pleased about that. And we're also doing cutting edge research that relates to diversity, relates to cancer, cardiovascular illness, neurological illness, got some great work in regenerative work and stroke, and we're looking at regenerative medicine, really some of the work that's at the cutting edge, and very grateful to you and your colleagues. You give us great airplay, and it's important that the public understands that some of the best work in the world, not just in America, is happening right here in Augusta.
Let's talk about your specialty, psychiatry, in particular schizophrenia. Dr. Buckley, you are globally sought after when it comes to that expertise. Tell me about research that's going on right now that you're involved with as it relates to schizophrenia and how that's helping patients.
So a major area that we know about schizophrenia is that it runs in families, but it's not simple, and it's very complicated genetically.
Is there a gene that can be traced from person to person?
So there's not a clear gene, but we're honing in on it, and we've identified 108 genes that appear to be particularly important. And so we've been involved in a large federal grant looking at the genetics of schizophrenia. Round one of it produced some very interesting information. But remember, I mentioned that we're focused on the needs and diversity of our state. we're now looking specifically at African Americans with schizophrenia. And is the genetic profile of that population different in some way? It's going to take a couple of years to find out about that. We're also involved in another genetics as well as imaging study that I'm really excited about. Colleagues across the country, including, I mentioned our partnerships with UGA, have been looking at bipolar illness, mood disorders, and schizophrenia. And these are terms bandied around, and you wonder, are they the same or are they different? And so we've been looking at a number of brain measures and body measures, and we're finding information that it's not just as simple as a term schizophrenia or a term mood disorders, that there might be a different kind of biology underneath that. And getting to the biology of these conditions is really important. Another thing we're doing with it, we've got a fabulous colleague, Brian Miller. Brian is looking at inflammation in the brain and schizophrenia. And we're now using drugs for rheumatoid arthritis as add-ons to treat schizophrenia. It's mind-boggling research.
It is incredible research that's going on right here at home. We could do 2 shows on mental health alone, and I wish we had more time to cover it now, but I thank you for the research that you're doing in that area.
Appreciate it.
And thank you for everything you're doing at MCG.
Good to be with you again, Brad. Thank you.
Absolutely. Dean of the Medical College, Dr. Peter Buckley.